Okay. Hello, people of YouTube. It's Deepak here, and welcome to the DCS news stream. It's the 16th of October, and we've got lots of interesting news about the F-16 updates and updates to the engine. Hello. Fair FM first, Stevie B, Tog. Welcome, everyone. Deep and Chuck. Yes, so I hope you all enjoyed that video there. That was the JF-17 with laser-guided bombs. Next week, I'm going to demonstrate I think they're called C701. They're basically Chinese versions of the Maverick, or like a Chinese equivalent of the Maverick guided missiles. So that's going to be a bit of fun, I think. And Fair FM, I like the JF despite the fact it's not a weapons truck and it lacks bullseye indications. Yes, some of the avionics are a little bit weird. You've got like a combination of some very, very advanced stuff and then also some fairly less advanced stuff as well. It's a bit sort of all over the place. So yeah, very, very strange indeed, unfortunately. But a nice aircraft. I really like it. This is going to be a continuing series. There's a lot to cover in the JF-17. It's a kind of really quite advanced aircraft. So yeah, and lots of weapons as well. So many different weapons to cover. So I think we're going to be doing this this series of tutorials for quite some time. Okay, we're having a slight technical difficulty with Chuck's audio just now, but we shouldn't be too much longer. He's working to rectify it. And in the meantime, you've got me, and we should hopefully have him back. Oh, one sec. So yeah, we should hopefully have him back very shortly. Alrighty. So actually, with that, he is now ready. So without any further ado, the one, the only, the dotChuckles. Welcome to the stream, sir.
Oh, nothing like a last-minute technical failure to give you the pucker factor.
It wouldn't be fun if something didn't go wrong. This is actually...
Exactly.
I get this kind of thing all the time. I just want to give a big shout out to Microsoft. Thank you for making your audio drivers... Well, it's obviously not their audio drivers, but anyway. I don't know why we get this on Windows, but regularly I have audio problems.
It's absolute nonsense. At least it's not live telly, because that's serious fucking pucker factor. So
yes, indeed. So welcome to the stream, sir. We've got a very interesting news week, or we've had a very interesting news week. We have a bunch of stuff to go over this week.
Oh God, do we? Yeah.
Many items. Welcome, Mark S. Volume is low, he says. Okay, is that? I don't think it's my volume, and I can hear you perfectly, Chuck.
And I can hear you perfectly. Maybe he should turn his volume up.
Maybe you should turn your volume up. Yes, indeed. Yeah, all my meters are bouncing in the usual fashion.
Indeed.
Oh yeah, and Fair FM is just making the comment, JF-17 Block 3, when it gets IRST and helmet-mounted designator. That's going to be pretty cool. They're stating that it's me that's quiet and that you are much louder than I am. I'm going to take a very quick look at that and see if maybe I've made an adjustment to my volumes, but I don't think I have. Let's have a quick look. It's always possible, though. Yeah,
it might be.
My volumes are all at normal. I haven't changed anything. I will position the microphone a little bit closer.
Maybe.
Yep, cool. Alrighty. So, yeah, what's been happening this week, Chuck? Well, I think we will start with the least exciting thing, but, you know, a good thing to have nonetheless. Eagle have given us a fantastic new ability in the editor called the Draw Tool. So we now have the ability to put cool-looking stuff on the map. And, oh, actually, they're asking, am I maybe on the wrong microphone? Okay, that is something that is possible. Give me one second.
Well, there you go. See, that's just...
I've swapped it back and forth. Looks exactly the same to me. Yeah,
I'm
definitely on the correct microphone. Are you going to monitor for me and see what's going on?
Yeah. So you are, in fact, actually quiet, and I am proper program level. So if something is going on at your end, your gain is.
In that case, I've now changed my gain levels. Let's see if that's any different. hopefully that makes a difference. So, yes, in any case, we have this fantastic new map tool. This is actually the kind of stuff that I tend to do in combat flight and make knee boards for the pilots. But the cool thing about this is, of course, these items will appear in the F10 map, and they will also appear in the briefing, which is pretty cool as well. So I think it's really nice that they've included this now. People are still
your audio is still goosed.
There. Okay, I've now bounced it up even further. Let's see if that... Although, I don't see the meter moving anymore when I increase it. So I'm not really sure what's going on exactly. Are you monitoring, Chuck? Can you hear any difference?
Yeah, I'm monitoring and you are quiet. Whereas I am at, program level. So
it doesn't seem to matter what I set the volume to. It's actually not changing, which is very strange. Because I can certainly see in my kind of VU meter that nothing changes, even when I bump the volume, which worries me a little. But I definitely have the correct, which is strange. I wonder why it's doing this. I don't know how to fix it, so I'm sorry, guys. You'll just need to make do. Am I at least intelligible? Chuck, are you able to hear me? Okay.
Yep, I can hear you. You are quiet though.
Okay. That's a pain. I'll do a further bump of the volume, but I don't think it's actually doing anything. Yes. Okay. We just need to make do. So anyway, that was the map editor, the draw tool that we now have in the mission editor, which is pretty cool. The other thing that popped up there in the news was the Hickmans DED page. So we now have the ability to change some of the options in the helmet-mounted queuing system in the F-16. This is one of a few updates that's coming in the next open beta release next week. And we have a bunch of other stuff showing up in the newsletter, which we're going to check at the very, very end, because there's a lot of really cool stuff in the newsletter.
Yeah, the newsletter is a bit of a monster, so
so we're gonna handle that at the end. But yeah, this doesn't do very much. It actually gives us some of the functionality that we already had in the Hornet with regards to the Hickmans. So things like changing the declutter level, and we also have options to turn on and off the different blanking options and the RWR display that the Hickmans has in the F-16. So this is a nice little addition that we're going to be getting next week for all you lucky Viper drivers.
Okay, just stand by. I'm just going to do something. I'm going to drop myself way down in the mix.
Okay. And I'm going to adjust my volume so I can hear you nicely.
Okay, so there we go. Just give me 2 seconds whilst I...
And it's funny that we started this stream by talking about the vagaries of the Windows audio subsystem, because
right, there we go. People can now just turn up maximum volume.
Yeah, exactly. We can just boost everything, and then both of us should be approximately audible.
Yeah. You are, something is very up with your audio, because like I say, I've got output meters from the stream that is showing I'm at minus 4 dB, which is where I should be, and you're like way down at like minus 25. So something's going on weird, but shitty fucking Start your fucking gear. Wow.
There is no audio in the stream whatsoever. Oh, there we go. Right, what's that level like now? I think it's too high because I'm maxing. Let me adjust it back down. There we go. Okay, that should be a little... No, I'm still too loud, actually. I'm still too loud. We now have the opposite problem. There. Okay, that's me back at the levels that I started the stream with. You should now find that I am much, much better at this level. What we were just saying at the beginning there was that, yes, the vagaries of Windows audio. Sadly, I don't have proper studio-level equipment. I've only got USB devices plugged into Windows, and we're very much subject to how crappy Windows is.
Dear fucking God. Right, we're going to have a chat about OBS and about monitoring plugins at some point, mate.
Yes.
And just bypass the whole Windows audio thing.
Oh yeah, it's absolute trash. It's absolute trash.
Yeah. And I completely bypass it. So,
and the thing is, this is not the first time. We've had this so many times now. I just think it was funny that we started the stream with your audio playing up, and now we've had mine play up as well. It's cool. It's cool. Tog will tell us how good the audio is once he has the ability to hear things again.
Dear Christ. Ow. Like, because I'm on a direct link to you, I got that full whack. So.
Sorry, man.
Yeah, we're gonna have to have a look at your audio setup and bypass Windows audio because it's just awful. Anyway, let's get back to the news before everybody fucks off.
So we were talking about the F-16 updates that are coming next week. So yeah, we have this DED page for the Hickmas. I'm really excited to see more of the DED pages appearing because for me, the DED is like the core of the avionics in the F-16. That's where all the functionality is to be found. And we have so few of them at the current time. So every single one we see is exciting. Although I've got to say the Hickmas page is like one of the least important ones, but still, it's nice that it's there.
Yeah. No, absolutely. And it's just, again, it's the F-16 moving towards being completed, which is what they said they were going to achieve. So, good stuff.
Yes, indeed. And with that in mind, we also have another DED page. Our man Wat Magner posted another video. Oh, actually, before we go on to that, I wonder who notices, as always with Matt Wagner's videos, who notices something, actually a couple of things in this image that are supposed to be coming to the F-16 that he hasn't mentioned yet. Left MFD has one clue, right MFD has another. In the left MFD, we can see the ground mapping mode of the air-to-ground radar. So that would very much suggest to me that we're getting the air-to-ground radar next week. Rich Jones piping up there with exactly that point. Right-hand multifunction display, we're seeing the HSD cursor, which will give us a whole load more functionality in the HSD page than we currently have, and that's a really nice addition to be seeing. Always look closely at Matt Wagner's videos. You're always going to get a little preview of what's coming next. So, with that said,
what's that Phantom doing there?
Yes, exactly. And with that, we have another video from Matt Wagner this week.
EB Photo Bish is pointing out a new island as well.
Yeah, I saw that. I'm not really sure where that is.
I think it's just to the left of the HUD, mate.
Oh, no. But what I mean is I don't know where it is IRL. I don't know what map this is.
Right. That's Marianas, isn't it?
Oh, okay. I didn't know that. I wasn't sure. So yes, that's really cool. And yes, we're getting the bullseye page now, DED page for the F-16, which, again, this is not the page that I'm going to get the most excited for. I really want to see the cruise page. But still, very, very good to see the functionality of the DED being fleshed out.
You can take the airline, you can take the pilot out of the airline, but you can't take the airline out of the pilot. You just want to set it at flight level 370 on auto and...
I want a hypermile, I want to get the absolute most out of my aircraft. I want to fly an F-16 around the world. So yes. Actually, right. El Photo Bish says that Matt Wagner personally responded to him with regards to this question. So he told me it's the Maug Islands in Marianas, whatever. And Maug and Ascension Islands. Interesting. Okay. Well, that's cool. So actually, the other thing, we're not just getting the Bullseye DED page in the next update, we're also getting Bullseye information for both the radar and HSD cursors. And that's really, really cool. That's actually going to be fairly useful functionality. So yeah, that's pretty much it for the for the videos that he's posted on the F-16. Next thing that we wanted to take a little look at, Razbam have been busy. Not a new module or an update, I might add, but a new trailer.
So confused by this. Like, why is this here? Why is this a thing? What am I looking at? It's
they already released the MiG-19, didn't they?
Yeah. Yeah, it's a nice trailer. It's lovely.
It's a very nice trailer.
Like, it's lovely. I mean, there it is showing off its low-res textures. Ooh, catty. But yeah. Okay. Do they not have bigger things to be doing or showing off?
Well, yes. I posted in their Discord saying that it's a really, really nice trailer, really cool to see it, and then I asked when's the Harrier one. Because of course I'm obsessed with the Harrier. But yes.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
Yappy Dog makes the point that we're talking about the MiG-19 right now, and that was probably their point. And yes, that's true.
Okay, yeah, right. Fair point. Absolutely fair point. We're talking about it because I don't know how well it's sold. Because to my mind, it's a jet out of its place in DCS. Like, it doesn't really have a natural opponent. I mean, it fought against the F4 in Vietnam, and it was quite effective against the F4, mostly because of the disparity in training at the time before Top Gun happened. And you could say, well, the MiG-21 suffers from the same problem that, the MiG-21, the great MiG-21 matchup was against the F4, but then the MiG-21 hung around for so long and is still in service in some places.
It is still in service.
Whereas I don't think the MiG-19 is anywhere, even in some sort of small,
Well, they were still flying them in North Korea for a time, but I seriously doubt they still are.
Yeah. So it's like, I mean, it's a pretty plane, and it has some important history, but it's just in terms of the DCS lineup, it's a bit odd. Which, like, okay, if they're pushing a new trailer because they're trying to generate sales, it's like, I don't think a new trailer is going to generate sales on this, really, because it's just a weird matchup. It's a nice plane, it's nicely modeled, but it's a bit of an odd matchup in DCS. I don't get it. I don't understand its purpose.
Byron saying there that the MiG-21 is still in service in Romania. In fact, the Romanian version of the MiG-21 is highly upgraded. It's just about a modern day aircraft, I would say.
Yeah. In the same way that the F4, I think, is still in service in, I want to say the Greek Air Force. I might be wrong. I don't know if it's retired recently, but I know it was in service quite recently in the Greek Air Force, I think.
I don't exactly know where, but I know that it is still in service with some air forces. So the F4 is another good example of that.
So yeah, I mean, the MiG-21, like, it's got its place, despite what people have said, it's got its place in DCS. But the MiG-19, it's like, yeah, it's lovely, it's great, nice, but it doesn't have a matchup, and it's just a bit weird. So
yes.
I'm like, yes, we're talking about the MiG-19, but is that going to translate into people buying it? I don't know.
True. But anyway, nice trailer, I thought.
Nice trailer, yeah. Good job on that, whoever did it.
Yes, looking good.
Yeah.
Next, we have a very interesting thing, which is apparently coming next week, and that is the Tomcat from Heat Blur is getting an update, and Jester is gaining the ability to operate the Lantern targeting pod, which is really, really cool. So yeah, you can basically just tell him what to do and he will do it for you. And you can just concentrate on the important stuff, like, being a pilot and, pressing pickle.
And the modeling of the lantern in the F-14 is really nice. Like they've
Yes.
absolutely captured that old school CRT and like poor thermal camera that blooms out, you know, when stuff happens. You know, it's just really nicely done.
Yes.
So it's good to see that, you know, you might get a chance of using this in single player, you know, by using Jester.
And let me just check. This video that I'm showing you just now, yeah, it's Red Kite. I thought it was Red Kite. So he's kind of doing an official tutorial video on behalf of Heatblur here. They've given him a pre-release version of this to take a look at. And this is a full tutorial on how to use Jester with the Lantern targeting pod, which is really, really cool. And Red Kite's videos are excellent, so well worth a look.
Yeah, I got a lot of time for his content. He's really good. He studies his material and puts out nice, accurate information. Just wanted to point out in chat, Richard Justice has said, unpopular opinion, flying the F-14 with Jester is a terrible experience. I'm not sure that's an unpopular opinion, actually. I wouldn't say it's a terrible experience, but it's not a great experience. But let me qualify this in that I think if you've never flown multiplayer with a real Rio in the back seat, you would be happy with Jester and you would be happy with what Jester does. I think, however, yes, if you've flown multiplayer and if you've had the pleasure of flying multi-crew in the F-14 with a good Rio, yes, Jester's trash. But let's face it, that's not what Jester's aimed at. Jester's aimed at people who are flying single player and want to fully utilize the jet. And
yes,
I think
absolutely.
And I think for that, Jester does a pretty good job.
I'm totally with you there. Like, you're never going to be able to, a few lines of Lua code are never going to be able to compete with a human being. But what they've achieved, like, Jester is in my opinion, the best implementation of an artificial crew member I've ever seen. Full stop. Like, I don't even need to qualify that. He's way better than anything else I've worked with.
Yeah. But I wouldn't say it's an unpopular opinion. I'd say no. You're like, if you're comparing it with a human Rio, you're not wrong. But the vast majority of people who have bought this module has never had a human Rio and has never been on a multiplayer server. So, you know.
Yeah. And Eb Photo saying beats Petrovic. Well, yes. But Petrovic doesn't really do anything. Sadly. He can flip a couple of switches for you, and he can point the camera at something, and that's about it.
And it worries me a little bit about what George is going to be like in the Apache, because despite what some people have said, I've had it straight from the horse's mouth. You cannot really operate the Apache without somebody in the front seat. I can't do it. You can't laze from the back seat. So
interesting.
You've got to be in the front seat to do it. So, and that's straight from the horse's mouth. So. So I'm a bit worried that, given what we've got with Petrovic, we'll see.
For some reason, whenever they mention George AI, I can't help but think about Peppa Pig. But hey, maybe that's just me.
There was a whole thing where a bunch of people called, why is it called George? Why is it called George? That's a stupid name. And I actually ended up, I saw the question so many times, I responded to a YouTube comment for the first time in about 5 years, because I don't really engage with YouTube comments because they tend to be really toxic. But I actually pointed out that, like, George has been the name for an autopilot since World War II. You know, ever since we've had autopilots, they were called George, and there's various reasons why that have been put forward. I don't know if any of them are true. One of them is that it's to do with King George, and it's his airplane and all that kind of stuff. I think that's probably bollocks. The other is that it's named after the guy who invented the first autopilot, which was George somebody or other, some boffin in a base in England during World War II. So who knows? But that's why.
Yes. Okay, fair enough. But yeah, I think in short, the multi-crew experience with two human players in an F-14 or any multi-crew aircraft is always going to be far superior. Multi-crew is awesome. We've done multi-crew a few times. It's so much fun. I even, in the Gazelle, there's not that much for the second guy to do, but I loved, sitting there in the weapon officer's position or whatever it's called. It's so much fun. And
it's Byron there with the amazing. Byron, your knowledge is so on point. George DeBeeson. There we go.
Do you think he maybe Googled it?
I don't know. Byron, he comes out with like these little gems every now and then, and I'm like, actually, he knows his shit.
Yeah, we just need to source the combined intelligence of chat, and we will know everything.
Exactly. Sorry, carry on. I interrupted you, but yeah, George DeBeeson. That was it.
Yes, indeed. Oh no, I was just trying to say that. Yeah, the human multi-crew experience in DCS is brilliant. I know Rusty is making the point here that multi-crew aircraft have no interest for him. I'm going to assume that's because you're not flying them in multiplayer. But yeah, it's so good. It's so good. And I know the statistics say that there are not that many people playing DCS in multiplayer. Give it a go. Just try it one time. Yeah, with some friends.
I mean, what we've got to remember as well is that a lot of the world are not as fortunate as us in terms of internet connection. It's amazing. What I found out, even like sort of countries like America, how many areas in the States don't have high speed broadband. So I can kind of understand why multiplayer might not have the uptake everywhere is just simply because people don't have the connection for it.
Yes. Yeah, that's true. That's true. And actually, I've seen quite a few funny DCS videos where people are playing multiplayer with huge amounts of packet loss and lag, and watching aircraft warp all over the place and then turn inverted and do all kinds of weird stuff is quite amusing. Yeah, I get the impression that DCS multiplayer does not deal very well with bad connectivity.
Yeah. I've just realized something.
What have you realized?
I didn't have the branding on. There we go.
Oh, there you go. Well done, sir. Well done. So that is Jester controlling the Lantern pod. Big update coming from Heatblur next week. But there's another. There's another.
What is their next one?
And sadly, this is a Facebook page, which makes us all sad, of course, because not everybody uses Facebook. It would be nice if the mod makers would stop doing this kind of thing. But anyway, it's fine. Heatblur Simulations. Next week, we introduce the CV-59 Forrestal, a free carrier for every DCS World pilot. You don't even have to be a Heatblur customer. The Forrestal will include only base DCS carrier Stennis level features. So it's not a super carrier module, but it is a free module. And just look at that texturing. That's really pretty. I really like the look of that.
Nice. Does look nice. And if I'm not mistaken, wasn't the carrier in Top Gun a Forrestal class?
It was. Because Forrestal class is period appropriate for the F-14. So yeah, this is the exact type of carrier that was in Top Gun. I don't know if it actually that would be chat. Go and tell us which aircraft carrier featured in Top Gun. Which exact one? I know it was a Forrestal, but I don't know which one it was.
I should know this. And there's it's at the back of my head. Was it not the Ranger?
The Ranger, USS Ranger. Byron says he thought that was a real photo. It does look like a real photo.
Yeah, I don't blame him, actually. It really does. Like, it's like their PBR texturing's really, really good.
Sperry. Yeah. Sperry invented the autopilot. Sperry autopilots, that was a big brand name in autopilots for a very, very long time. I don't know if they still make them, but in any case, Ranger sounds right, says Richard Justice.
I think it was the Ranger. Yeah.
And someone.
The thing is, there's a difference between an autopilot and a automatic course keeping device, and I think the sort of course keeping device was the first one, and that was George DeBeeson, whereas an autopilot is kind of a specific thing that you can program a heading into it and it'll fly to it and keep an altitude and stuff like that. I think the thing that George Debeson invented, like we're talking way back in early days of World War II, was it just simply kind of just kept things level using a gyroscope and some levers, probably some cogs,
maybe some twine.
Yeah. The Ranger. Yeah, I thought it was.
It's scrapped in 91, says Tog.
Yeah. But it is a beautiful photograph. I mean, this is one of the things that stands out to me that Heatblur do really well is their artists are top notch. They're at the AAA level.
Yes, that's for sure.
And they've got some real talent in there. And that just shows it, which means I think the coming Eurofighter module is going to be an absolute joy to look at when it comes out.
Yes, indeed. Yeah, we're all waiting with bated breath for news about the Eurofighter, but sadly, chat, we don't have any news of that this week. We have news of lots of other stuff. Let's move on to the next thing. This is. I don't know if anyone cares about this apart from me, but I'm bringing it up anyway. We have here an article on Helisimmer. Please ignore all the adverts. I don't know why there's so many adverts on this page. Coming to DCS, a freeware AS350 Ecuriel, French people can laugh at me, and AS550 Fennec, which I think means squirrel. These are two Eurocopter helicopters. They are civilian models, and they
are... Is a Fennec not a fox? Is it not a type of fox? A Fennec fox? It's got big ears.
Yeah, you're right, actually. You're right. And Tog immediately says it's not a tornado, and he would be right. These two helicopters are definitely not tornadoes, but they do look rather nice. I'm psyched for this. And wait, why is there a squirrel in the bottom right then? Is that why I got confused? Maybe Ecuriel is squirrel and Fennec is fox. Yeah. So maybe it's squirrel and fox.
Yeah.
Ooh. I thought they were both civilian. This has gun pods on it.
Well, the squirrel was used as a trainer. And I want to say it was the RAF used it as a trainer. I'm going to Google this.
It's looking nice. I like the set of David Clark headphones hanging in the center overhead there. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, Royal Air Force Squirrel HT1. Was once an Aerospatiale product. Subsequently, a Eurocopter one, and now part of the Airbus helicopter family, was chosen by the UK Ministry of Defence to provide single-engine rotary wing training. So there we go.
So this is a basic helicopter trainer, basically. So that's nice. I wonder if they're going to do multi-crew. I'm guessing because it's freeware, that's going to be a no, because they won't have access to the SDK. That cockpit looks rather nice, by the way.
Yeah.
I think that looks pretty nice. So, I'm sure that 90% of DCS users don't care about this, but my opinion always is the more diversity in the modules that we have in the sim, the better. And I think it's really nice to see this. Somebody could download DCS for free because, remember, the baseline DCS package is free. They could download this for free, and they could join people in multiplayer and muck about.
And learn how to fly a helicopter because... helicopters like these are great for learning fundamentals. I'm sure this has probably got a mixing unit that takes out some of the weirdness, like transverse flow effect and gyroscopic precession, all that kind of stuff. But I'm willing to bet that to hover that helicopter, if the flight dynamics is accurately modeled, you're going to have to do a bit of that compensation, that the old balancing the stick, balancing the umbrella on its point stuff that you have to do with the helicopter. And, if you can do that, then when you move into something like the Apache or the Ka-50 or anything that is like computer aided or SAS aided, you'll fly it like a boss. I always say that the first helicopter in DCS people should pick up and fly is the Huey, because the Huey has none of that. It's got none of the mixing units or SAS systems that take out the the coupled control effects in a helicopter, because like you can fly a plane quite easily because all the controls are more or less decoupled. Yes, there's some secondary effects, but they're kind of minor.
Yeah.
But in a helicopter, like they're all coupled, and you have to be able to counteract that. So that's why I think these things are really cool, because it sort of lets somebody properly learn the mechanics of these things, and then move and graduate onto bigger and better, more complex machines, and fundamentally understand it. Incidentally, with Apache coming up, if you're not sure about flying a helicopter, I would recommend checking out a YouTube channel called Helicopter Lessons in 10 Minutes or Less. And it's very good because it takes it takes one of the fundamental aspects of aerodynamics or flying a helicopter, and the guy breaks it down on a piece of paper with a Sharpie in 10 minutes or less. And you will understand it by the end of it. He's very, very good. I think he's an ex US Army Apache pilot, and I would definitely check him out.
And what's the name of that channel again?
Helicopter Lessons in 10 Minutes or Less.
Excellent. That sounds like a top recommendation. And
Yes.
I also want to second your recommendation of the Huey. The Huey was, I think, the first helicopter in DCS that I flew. And if you can fly the Huey, you can fly anything. Because, as you say, the Huey, there's zero assistance. It has nothing. So it's pretty cool. Norman, welcome to the stream. And
Indeed. Welcome, Norman.
And Fair FM, yes, aerodynamics in helicopters are way more complex, and mechanical components are quite sensitive.
It's like when I started studying it, it starts boggling the mind, because like you have to, like, even the concept of gyroscopic precession is weird. And then you realize that anything that happens on the rotor disc actually happens 90 degrees later. Its effect happens 90 degrees later, and all sorts of strange things. So in order to, for example, in order to pitch the nose up, you'd think that as you pull the cyclic, it's the rotor blade at the front of the helicopter that increases its angle to pitch it up. It's not. It's the one at the right. Because the effect happens 90 degrees later. If you pitch the blade as it passes the front, what'll actually happen is it'll roll right, because it's happening. The lift is happening 90 degrees later. It just.
Okay, I didn't know that, but it does make sense when you describe it.
It's peckles your head, but fly stuff like that, you start to fundamentally understand it, or rather intrinsically understand it, and are able to counteract for it. So there we go.
Yes. So like I said, I'm excited for this. I think it's going to be cool. I really like that rain effect on these big windows. That's really, really nice.
Does look good, doesn't it? Wow.
And that's just the standard DCS rain effect. It's just that you don't normally see it over such a wide field of view like that.
Yeah.
So it's pretty cool. I'm looking forward to this. Hopefully that comes out soon. Freeware as well.
Yeah, I'll download that and give it a go. Yep.
Next one, and this is one that many of us have been waiting for a while. The first 15 chapters. Woo! It's not the complete manual yet, but
for God's sake, really?
It's the first 15 chapters, numbering 485 pages. So this is no small amount of documentation.
As you know, I've been banging on about this for ages. Like, why the hell is there no manual for the Harrier?
Yes,
and we get it. It's the first 15 chapters. Oh my God. Okay. Yeah.
And I have to say, I've only kind of briefly looked over it so far, but it looks very, very good. Now, this is Baltic Dragon. He has a very, very high standing in the community for, very good reasons. He's made so much fantastic content for DCS, from missions to skins to mods, all kinds of stuff. And this is pretty damn good. You're looking at this. We've got like 50 pages just for the fuel system. This is going into some ridiculous amounts of detail, and I'm very, very happy to see this. Those of us who fly the Harrier have really been waiting for a good manual, and I don't know about other people, but for me, I've just been using the Chuck's Guide, I might add that that's not this Chuck, but a different Chuck.
Not me. Different Chuck. Yeah.
But the Chuck's guide for the Harrier is excellent. All of his guides are absolutely excellent. But it's nice to have a proper, like an official manual produced by the developer as well. And so we have what seems to be most of it, if not all of it yet. And I know Baltic Dragon is continuing to work on this.
So like, what has he done here? Is he basically taken the -10 and like put meat on the bones? Like, because when you read through a -10 for any aircraft, it's a bit like this happens, and this happened, and it doesn't necessarily explain why those things happen. Like, is that kind of what he's done? That he's just putting the kind of when you activate this bus, it does this because of that. Is that his style?
I actually don't know, because I've not spent enough time reading this just yet. So yeah, I couldn't tell you. It actually, the style reminds me a little bit more of the kinds of manuals that Eagle Dynamics used to make in the past for their modules. So it's, I don't think it's exactly something like the NatOps or whatever. But there's a lot of good diagrams and stuff like that here, though, which is nice to see. So yeah, I'm going to work my way through this and probably integrate some of what it teaches into the training programs for the Harrier Squadron at VAF. But Fair FM says it's a great manual. He's read more of it than I have. What's the Mirage 2000C manual like, asks Mark S. I actually don't know. I've never read it. So I couldn't tell you.
Don't even know if there really is one, other than some quick start guides and some bits and pieces. I'm not entirely sure.
Yeah,
I could be wrong.
I couldn't tell you. I'm sneakily taking a quick look in the DCS folder just now to see if I can tell you while we're live, because this is how live television is done. And yes, there is a complete flight manual, and it's about 80 megabytes in size. So it must be
right.
It must be halfway decent. Here we go. That's the Mirage 2000 manual. I can't tell you if it's particularly good or not, but here it is. Actually, the style looks exactly the same.
I wonder if Baltic Dragon wrote it.
It may well be the case. It may well be more of his work. This one is only 320 pages, though. Yes. So anyway, let's not go too far into that. So the Harrier now has a manual, even if it's not entirely complete. But it's enough to get started with, I would say, which is nice.
Yeah.
So moving on, the DCS newsletter, which we normally start with, but today we thought we'd go with it last because there's rather a lot in here.
And it's big stuff as well. Like this is big dealio, like things that are in here. So
yes, indeed, I'm excited to see a bunch of this. They start by talking about the supercarrier and a development progress update for that. They're working on the air boss station, the briefing room, and they've also talked about something which I find very, very interesting. They say they've created a special camera route editor and an advanced view system. It allows you to create bookmarks on the carrier deck and other locations. That's very exciting. And this adds a camera movement route option to help create spectacular scenes for video creators. This sounds pretty big.
That's a big deal, because movie making in DCS is it's kludgy as fuck.
Yes.
In order to get the exact camera moves that you want, it's really tricky. So if they're talking about something that we can, you can effectively keyframe camera moves and then have it do it, that's really big. That's awesome. You can make proper dolly shots and crane shots and things like that. So I really hope that when they say other locations, it's the flight deck and it's not just, it's the flight deck and the air boss station and things like that. I really hope what they mean by other locations is airfields and other parts of the map. Fingers crossed.
My hope would be that it's anywhere, like literally anywhere on the map. That would be what I hope that they're doing here. And this is massive, because if you look on YouTube, there's so many people creating excellent DCS cinematic content. And how people have managed to film half of this stuff, I don't know, because I make videos on YouTube. to be frank, it's an absolute pain in the arse. Like, there is no good way of doing it, especially because when I'm actually, flying DCS for fun, I'm doing it in VR. And especially in VR, there's just no way for me to make videos in VR.
So, from what I understand, is that they use track IR to get that smooth movement. Yeah, it's like, I don't think, the track function's dead, so like a lot of this is going to have to get done live. One of the things that I would like to see, and it may have come, I don't know, but it didn't used to be there, would be the ability to assign the external camera to axis. Yes. The free camera to axis, because in the really real world, when we film, if I'm using a dolly or a crane, that is how the camera's controlled. It's basically we've got
Xbox controller.
Effectively, yes. Actually, it's pretty much an Xbox controller. It's a fancy Xbox controller, and we can move we can move the camera head where we want it, and we can also record. This function, basically, we can record a set of movements and hit playback, and it will play back those movements as the camera rolls. So, like, I'd love to see that in DCS for movie making. That would be awesome.
When I started making my YouTube videos, what I wanted to do was to map an Xbox controller as the external camera controls. You cannot do it. Well, you can do it. There's a problem. The external camera controls are available as an axis, but they're absolute. So that's no good.
Yeah, I know.
So if they could make it relative, and the thing is, you could probably put a piece of software in between your controller and DCS to make that happen, then you could create really nice smooth camera movements. But sadly, I just have to use the mouse look, and it's atrocious.
Yeah. Track IR is the way to do it and get it smooth, and I believe that's what they use.
Very well.
Yeah. So that's big news item one.
Big news item number
many
one.
in this newsletter.
It's also with great pleasure that we share our advancements on multi-core. We're making good progress, and we've prepared a short roadmap for your consideration. Upon completion, performance and VR support will be improved. So that's another big one, and they go into more detail in that further down. In the upcoming Open Beta 2.7.7 update, which I think is next week, but they haven't confirmed this yet. The AIM-120 AMRAAM missile will receive an INS unit with data link support, a revised seeker model, and updated guidance laws. So there's more details on that further down as well. And then there's a new campaign for the MiG-21, which is pretty cool. So yeah, if we scroll down a bit further, they start talking about the supercarrier. This one is kind of interesting because this doesn't just touch on the supercarrier. They talk about working on the human motion model with intelligent behavior for infantry and deck crew. Very notable infantry there. They're starting with deck crew, but they're going to apply it to infantry units as well. They're applying two new behaviors, that is obstacle avoidance and dynamic reroute, according to the situation. Rerouting behavior is based on a path search algorithm with any angle path planning. I don't know what any of that means, but I assume it means that the deck crews and infantry will have the ability to intelligently move around and respond to the environment. They're also talking about obstacle avoidance. I'm not going to go into. They start talking about a lot of very in-depth stuff here, but lots of engineering terms. But anyway, the first phase of the development is complete, and cases must now be considered for when aircraft are passing by, directing aircraft to and from parking positions, avoiding moving aircraft, different states of service and interruptions, etc. So it sounds to me like when you're taxiing around on the deck, the crew are going to get out of your way.
Yeah, it sounds like it, doesn't it?
Yeah. And that sounds pretty cool.
Yeah. I think things that they're talking about here as well, like I am going to dig into the technical stuff.
Go for it.
Yeah, so there is one thing as well that I picked up. Restrictions on linear acceleration and discreteness of animation. So that basically means that what I interpret that as is that they're going to have a lot of motion capture that is like they're going to have specific animation for I'm changing direction a little bit. I'm really getting the fuck out of the way. I'm doing this. I'm doing like some really good animated stuff, and we have seen these little sneak peeks of this kind of stuff in the infantry as well, in the Harrier videos. So I think I said we talked about this. In Apache videos. Yeah, we talked about this months ago now, where when the Apache first came out, one of the things that we talked about was that they're really going to have to up the game on what the infantry does because of the interaction that the Apache does with infantry. And well, here you go. This is the end result. So,
and in some of the videos, the infantry for the Apache were looking superb. Like, I think they were looking really, really good. So this is going to be nice. I love this idea that the deck crew are now kind of moving realistically around in the deck, getting out of your way, walking around aircraft and obstructions. That's just cool. I like that.
Yeah.
Next, multi-core. Woo! Development report on multi-core. So apparently CPU multi-threading support started in 2019 when they implemented Edge 2.7. This was required to increase performance as rendering demands have changed, etc., etc. And they devised a solution to render a frame in a multi-threaded manner with automatic workload synchronization. So yeah, they're saying basically they feel like they're now kind of halfway through a fully ready render graph and the required applied programming. At the end of Q3 2021, we accomplished, and then they list a whole load of stuff, which covers what seems to me like the vast majority of kind of graphics workloads in the sim. And they've pointed out the ones that they still have to do. And that is the flat shadows, the dynamic lights, radar, propellers and similar effects, clouds, very important, and VR support.
So, like, from what I understand as well, like, when they started multi-threading, we did see a big performance increase, because I remember when Edge came out, like, there was a big jump in performance.
There was.
As well as visual fidelity. Or what people would report is that, holy shit, it looks a lot better, but they're getting about the same frame rates. So it really did work. But what I can see here that is enormous, in terms of what they're talking about, what remains to be done, the big thing here is radar. Radar is a massive frame rate hog. Like, there was a whole load of things, I can't remember which module it was, but when you flick the radar on, your frame rates just went down into the teens or lower. The Vigan, right. And it's because the Vigan was using like a new higher end radar calculation at the time. Yeah. Because I think it was the first implementation of ground radar, I want to say.
I believe so. This was prior to Eagle actually having radar in their SDK. So the heat blur, it was heat blur at the Vigan. They had to do it themselves.
So radar is a big hog. Dynamic lighting, massive frame rate hog. Which is why we've got a limit on dynamic lights in DCS. I forget what the limit is, but it's not massively high. So, imagine like if you play Armor, there's a mod called Weapon Core, where tracers illuminate the ground and all sorts of cool stuff and things like that.
I've seen that. Yes.
It looks super cool, super real as well. So like you could be looking at things like that. And shadows as well. Okay, flat shadows, less, taxing, but it's still a bit of a tax. And then of course, VR support, and VR, like trying to get all the VR, sensing stuff. That's also a big processor hog. So these are some major things that are going to get handed off to other cores. I think we're going to be looking at some serious performance improvements or some serious graphics fidelity improvement for no frame rate cost.
Yeah. This is very exciting. Like, I'm really looking forward to this. And this, I assume this will really tie into the Vulkan API work as well, because then you become less dependent on what the graphics driver does, and you have the ability to access the kind of the low level graphics hardware in a more direct fashion to do some more clever optimizations, because usually what happens is with DirectX 11 or similar, the game has a scene and it hands the whole thing off to the graphics driver to render, but the graphics driver doesn't know the context of anything that it's rendering. It just renders a scene. Whereas if you're the game, you can have some intelligent logic and some optimization about how you render that scene, because you actually know what the objects are and how they relate to the game state. Whereas in older rendering APIs, you don't have any of that information. It's not able to do clever optimizations.
So the last paragraph here, like I'm struggling to parse it. Mm-hmm. But there is something in it that's like, oh God, really? If I understand it correctly, that they're saying we've completed most of the work for first delivery and made changes to our internal applied graphics API that can shield out the Vulkan code whilst in early testing. This render code supports both DirectX and the Vulkan API as a different DCS world branch. Holy shit, are we about to go back to the time when we had 4 different versions of DCS?
No.
Is that what that paragraph is saying?
That's not how I read it, at least. And actually, I've been involved with games development where we've had changes of rendering API. So I think I know what they're saying here. Basically, what they're saying is when they're talking about branches, they're talking about branches like a Git branch, like a source control branch. So basically, they have 2 versions of the sim in parallel, one they use for internal testing and one they give to us. And at compile time, they can switch it between DirectX and Vulkan. So the one they give to us is DirectX, the one they use internally is Vulkan. That's all that means. That's the way I read it anyway. So no, don't worry. Okay. I don't think that's what they're doing.
Yeah, because you remember it was like about 10 years ago or so, was it, when we had like 3 different versions, and it just got crazy, and it was like, what branch are you on,
Yes. No, that's not the way I read it at all. Because the thing is, there'd be no reason to do that. The thing is, once you have Vulkan and it's stable, you have no reason to maintain DirectX. So they wouldn't do that, I don't think.
Fingers crossed.
Yes. But yeah, very, very exciting. And actually what they describe is a very, very sensible developmental approach to doing this. So I'm pretty sure that's what they mean.
Yeah. And in many ways, this last paragraph talking about Vulkan is this is like probably in my mind the biggest news of the letter. Is that they're now really starting to talk about Vulkan API, because what Vulkan will do for DCS is going to be pretty massive.
Mm-hmm. Yes. They have, they've tended, as you kind of described, to push performance and graphical fidelity at the same time. So it may be the case that you might not notice that much performance increase necessarily, but it's going to look nicer. And you will, of course, have the option to turn certain features off, and then you'll gain your performance increase. So and the visual fidelity, like again going back to these DCS cinematic videos, they are testament to the graphical fidelity and quality of the graphics engine. It is, no matter what anybody says, DCS can look beautiful, really beautiful.
Yeah, the difference is that you couldn't really play at that setting, because what a lot of these things are done is they're screen captured at 1/4 speed and then sped up in the edit suite.
Yes.
So what we will be looking at with something like when this multi-threading support comes along and Vulkan gets implemented is that actually you can probably play it now. You could play at that, and you don't need 4 GTX 3090s in your machine and liquid nitrogen cooling the processor.
Yes, and us poor people who play in VR can start bumping the graphical settings up a little bit.
Exactly. So this to my mind is the really, really big news in the newsletter that's going to impact all of us.
Clouds and VR support. That's the 2 that I'm looking at. It's going to be nice. It's going to be nice.
Clouds are junk in VR right now.
Yeah, well, they look all right. They're just not as good as in 2D mode. But chat, that's not all. That's not all. There's more.
There is more.
There is more. The AIM 120. I feel like the AIM 120 has been revised so many times now, but they're talking about some really in-depth simulation of the systems on board this missile. Which is fascinating to me. The level of detail that they can simulate the AIM 120 at is just absolutely fascinating to me.
So it makes me laugh because it makes me think of the forum of old when it was like, no, it's a M120, perfectly correct, secret documents. Okay, all right.
I think those days are gone.
Yeah.
But yes, it's receiving a separate INS system unit with data link support. So they're talking about steering on predicted intercept points using target data received from the weapons control system at launch. This will dramatically increase missile effectiveness against non-maneuvering targets when the missile has no guidance prior to its seeker taking over. The aircraft weapon control system will also send INS messages via data link that update the target position and velocity to account for target maneuvers. So this says to me that we're going to start seeing a bit of a difference between kind of mad dogging a missile or firing a missile while you still have a target locked, or losing that lock partway through the missile's flight. I would imagine that it's going to continue flying based on the INS information and then turn on its own seeker at the appropriate moment. That is my assumption. I don't actually know that much about how the M120 works in the real world. They also talk about redoing the missile seeker model. You know, the radar dish now uses a realistic gyro-stabilized gimbal that's controlled by the INS before target lock. An active missile seeker like the M120 will have its detection and tracking lock range based on physical calculations. Now this is exciting. And I assume this is the kind of thing they already do with the aircraft radars. But we're doing calculations of noise and target signal ratio, the target's RCS, ECM power, and range. So yeah, this is kind of cool. Target search and tracking is based on Doppler velocity filtering. So they're going to be simulating the gate. And the radar will search for target near the target reference velocity provided by the INS. Pretty cool stuff. Fair FM, quick question. Does this mean you can lock from a data link? Not as far as I'm aware. Certainly at least the AIM-120C model cannot do that. I think, but I could be wrong, that there are some versions of the D model that can do this, because the D model is designed for internal carriage on the F-22 and F-35, and so has kind of, you know, target acquisition after launch style modes that it can have, or at least some blocks of the D model. I don't think we have the D. No, we don't have the D model in DCS. So, in short, no, we don't have that.
We want the D, though.
Everybody wants the D.
Who doesn't want the D?
Who doesn't want the D? I'll uwu again. Anyway,
I've actually chuckled twice or several times this week remembering that. That was quite funny.
Yeah, I'm not doing it again.
No.
Someone can just snap it from last time. So yeah, guidance law has been updated. Missile seekers have received Kalman filters. Somebody has to look that up for me. I don't know what that is.
Kalman filter. It's is that not like a short Scottish comedian being sarky? It's Susan Kalman. Never mind.
That was actually pretty good.
Yeah.
Yes. Kalman filters to estimate target motion parameters. The new guidance law accounts for target normal to line of sight accelerations. This is actually going way over my head. Possible target G-load growth rate, compensated missiles x-axis acceleration, and missile control system latency. Sounds absolutely fascinating. It sounds like something I need to study, but I didn't get all of that. I read that as it has the ability to predict lots of likely outcomes of a target's maneuvers.
What I want to know is the Red 4 missiles going to receive the same kind of, you know, wizardry that they're doing with the M1 with the 120 here?
Yeah, I guess it depends which ones we're talking about, because things like the R-22 and so on are pretty basic missiles. The R-77, however, is an extremely advanced missile and is in, I think some versions of the R-77 is more advanced than, like, say, an AIM-120B or maybe even certain C models. So I don't know. I would assume that the political situation in Russia might complicate that matter.
Suppose.
But it would be nice to see that kind of thing if possible. You never know. Maybe they'll do it and just not tell us so they don't get in trouble.
Yeah, maybe.
Yes. And then, moving on, we have the Apache H64D. More updates about this one. This is more just focusing on the helmet. Now, of course, the Apache helmet is very, very fancy and very advanced, but it is just a helmet. Nonetheless, they're modelling a bunch of stuff on the helmet here. Something actually, quick thing to note, they talk about the lip light, which I'd heard of this, but I didn't realise the Apache had this. So you've got the ability to trigger a little torch with your tongue, I guess, which is kind of cool. So I guess if you're operating at night, you can use that to look around inside the cockpit.
I suppose, because I guess if you're close into the ground, you really can't take your hands off the controls, can you?
Probably not.
Yeah.
So that's kind of cool. I didn't know they had that. I'd heard of this kind of setup, but I didn't know the Apache had it. But yeah, they talk about the integrated helmet and display sight system, the iHads. They talk about the communications components, the helmet mount for your night vision goggles. They're modelling the M949 for those of you who care about such things. That's the particular night vision goggles we're going to have. Battery packs, counterweights, lip light, boom microphone, and an extra bag for battery pack with Velcro. So that's the update we're getting on the Apache. Yappy Dog says, so you lick your mic to turn on the flashlight. That is my understanding, yes. That is my understanding. So cool little extra bit of information. I didn't know that one. And then we've got the MiG-21 campaign. So this is Battle of Krasnodar and also Constant Peg. So there you go. Exciting new DCS MiG-29 BIS action with two new campaigns.
Yeah, big news items in that newsletter. I mean, it's just huge. But I mean, the sort of takeaway that I'm getting out of this is a few weeks back we talked about what the focus was going to be for 2022, and it was like, is it going to be another big module? And I thought. Actually, no, I think it's going to be investing in the architecture and infrastructure of DCS. And like looking at what they're talking about here in this newsletter with things like, we're seeing these little sneaks like, the draw tool and the mission editor.
Yes.
There's a new mission editor manual coming, which makes me think, well, I wonder if they're going to add some more new stuff to the mission editor, because the mission editor is ancient and it's a mess. So are they going to improve that? And then we're seeing all this stuff about multi-core. We're seeing Vulkan API. These are big things that are really sort of strengthening the foundation. So I think this is going to be their focus for next year.
It sounds like it, yes. Also, I'm really excited for next week. The last item I have in my notes there is that I don't know, but I think we're getting the open beta update next week, and that was as we reported. I don't know if it was last stream or the one before. They have really big plans for the F-16. The F-16 is getting a ton of stuff in the next update. Air-to-ground radar, harm targeting system with the pod that the harm uses, some DED pages and a bunch of other stuff. That's going to be really nice to see. Even just having the HSD cursor and the bullseye and things like that, that's a really big step up in the effectiveness of the Viper in DCS. So really psyched to see that. Yeah. No tornado. Sorry. No tornado.
No tornado. No.
Somebody wants a meteor. Who was talking about that?
Byron was talking about getting a meteor.
Yes, and of course, what actually fires the meteor just now? It's the Gripen, the Typhoon. Does the Rafale fire it as well? I don't remember. So there are not that many aircraft in the world that can fire it right now. And probably the Gripen is kind of, if you're a nation that wants to be able to launch meteors, just buy Gripens. They're cheaper.
Yeah. I want Brimstone. That's a cool missile.
Ooh, that is a cool missile. That's a very
Brimstone's cool.
Am I right in thinking? I don't know if it's the original Brimstone or the Brimstone 2. It has radar and laser seeker and optical Like I have a funny...
I do believe it's multi-mode.
Yeah.
Like properly multi-mode. Yeah.
Just does everything.
Yeah, and it's fat and chunky and has a big warhead and flies really fast.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wonder, like, the Brimstone is very kind of British/European. I wonder what the Americans use that's similar. I guess they have, Harpoon and...
Well, Brimstone not kind of like the British Maverick.
Yes, but it's nothing like a Maverick.
Yeah, it's employed in the same manner.
Yes.
It's designed for taking out fixed emplacements, moving vehicles, with precision, without too much collateral damage.
Yeah. Because you're thinking about it, I'm not aware of a US manufactured weapon that has the same capabilities.
No. It fills. It basically, it's all the Mavericks in one body.
Yeah.
That's kind of how I understand it. I could be wrong.
But with a chunk more range.
Yeah, with chunk more range and more explosive power. Actually, the big Maverick, the one that they use for taking out bunkers. I think that might be a bit more explosive, but that's kind of like a real edge case there. So
crazy stuff. Well, that is the news for this week. We didn't have anything else, so let's take it. Could we deal with any more than this? This is already too much.
News week.
It was a big news week. It was very exciting. But as always, let's very quickly pimp out the VAF, because that's always a good thing to do. The squadron is growing incredibly.
Oh gosh, yeah.
We've got people flying all kinds of aircraft. We're always looking for more pilots. If you look at the show notes below, you'll see a link to our Discord. Everyone is welcome, whether you want to fly on a kind of casual basis or you want to sign up to one of our numbered squadrons and have a more kind of milsim style approach, then please, go ahead and join the Discord, have a chat with us and start flying with us. We fly a mission every Thursday and we're regularly doing training and other kind of ad hoc flying throughout the week. I'm Deepak. My channel on YouTube is where you see this kind of content, the DCS news, but also every Saturday I premiere a new tutorial video. I'm currently doing a series on the JF-17. Tonight it was all about laser-guided bombs. Next week, speaking of Mavericks, it's actually going to be I think it's called the C701, which is basically a Chinese equivalent of a Maverick. So I'm going to demonstrate how to use those in the JF-17 next week. And in between times, I'm sometimes streaming Tarkov, sometimes releasing other bonus DCS content. But yes, that's pretty much all from me for tonight. Thank you very much for joining me tonight, dotChuckles. It's always a pleasure to have you on the DCS newscast.
Always fun.
So, nothing left to say other than, if you haven't already, please subscribe, like, and comment. Fly safe, and we'll see you all next time. Salute.